Yankee bromance has already started here. Boone's in studio. He's ripping on me for being short. Him and BT are talking shop. The Yankee love. Aaron Boone live in studio with us. Boone, thanks for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me. I can't believe you guys got me in, but I'm so excited to be here. It's cool to see the studio, your little digs here. Fired up to be here.
We had to clean it up for you, of course, and we got the packs. We will pull your card 2 versions, me versus you, and then you versus BT.
All right.
83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. You will pick the years for each of us.
Yeah, but you didn't hear something. Booney's got to tell you what he told me. I think you were doing something else.
He's a little nervous?
No, well, I don't want to speak for the skip here. He does it, several times a day as the manager. But when he first heard it, quote, I was kicking your ass. I was playing alone with you guys.
Yeah, so I heard this. I heard it last winter. I'm listening to one day, and you guys are playing this, and I'm like, I think I was waffling, on the air, And then when I was texting with you about, getting the details done for this, and you dropped I was going through my sticker book.
My 85 sticker book.
My 85 sticker book. I'm like, I could be in trouble. Like, first of all, I don't know if you should be admitting that you're going through your 85 sticker book.
Here we go.
Booney, some guys play and some guys collect stickers.
I know, my God. Well, now I am going to say it.
So I know his career.
Yeah.
Did you play?
I mean, I played in, junior
You all
high.
right?
I mean, I was a good defensive player.
You a better athlete than Evan?
That sounds great.
Come on, Booney, don't insult me. Better athlete than Evan. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Evan's honestly one of the worst athletes in the history of sports radio.
I saw some video of him hitting one time. I was like, ooh.
Come on.
I don't know. What can he do athletically? No, Sal's definitely an elite athlete.
No, I had a glove, but I didn't have confidence. I wish I had the confidence I do now doing this as a player, but I wasn't any good, unlike you. All right. Can we get into this here before we?
Mm-hmm.
Have you gotten over the World Series yet?
No, I don't think you ever get over it. It's kind of one of the first things when you're talking with the team after the game, and it was obviously pretty emotional. A lot of people got up and spoke. It's like it's going to hurt forever. I mean, the 2019 walk off, that. Really every end to the season, but when you're close in a lot of different ways, the ending sticks with you forever.
What do you say, Aaron? I mean, it really is amazing about just how great Judge is and what a terrific person he is. He's not going to drop a pop fly like that the rest of his life.
Yeah.
What do you say to him?
We just keep it moving. I mean, the one thing Judgy does so well, day in and day out, year in and year out, lives it, is he's just this perfect teammate and really perfect competitor. And when you play in the game and when you live in the game, you understand, we talk about the grind a lot, and you understand that. And you understand the ups and downs of it all. And I've never seen somebody handle the day-to-day 0 for 4 one day, 2 for 4, whatever, as well as he does, like that even keel.
Even better than Jeter? Because Jeter was pretty good with that stuff too, right?
Jeter was great at that. Judge, just because I know him so well now and I've lived it with him, to watch him every single day, he just gets the life and the grind of it all, and for a guy as great as he is, also how hard it is too.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people make a big deal out of Game 5. Obviously, that inning, it was horrific. But Game 1, you got ridiculed for the decision there. I personally didn't have an issue with it because I'm thinking if Cortez is on the roster and he wants to use him here in the spot, so be it. I know you had some regret, though, after the game. Take us through your decision with Cortez against Freeman.
I don't know if it's regret. The decision for me was not Tim Hill versus Nestor, because the inning, while it ended with Freeman, who going into that series, before he went off on the series, felt very much like a shell of himself coming out of the NLCS. Like he could barely walk in that NLCS. He wasn't the same guy. I think the time off certainly served him well. So the calculus for me was 2-3 hitters. And I knew Cortez, we felt like was a better matchup going into that game against Ohtani. And if the one Hill at bat against Ohtani later in the series was one of the only hits Ohtani got, he smoked the ball to center field. So we had to get 2 outs.
Right.
We're probably not going to double up Ohtani, right, with his speed. So that, and I like the Nestor matchup against him and especially Betts. Now, once the ball takes Verdugo into the outfield and moves up the runner, then I'm going to take my shot with Freeman, with Nestor. And if frankly, if the ball is 4 inches higher, I mean, he kind of pulled it down and in, and it ended up in the seats. But so I don't have regret about that decision. The one thing was, do I keep Weaver in the game? And obviously you would lose him for a game 2 scenario, but then you got the off day. So there's a case to be made there, and that's probably the one I wrestle with the most. He had come off, I think he was at like 19 or 20 pitches. We were tied. I wasn't going to send him out if we were tied, but I think the case to be made once we took the lead, saying, let's roll with him here. But then it's like, do I get to the finish line with him? Then I'm going to somebody else anyway, and he's down a couple days probably. So that was the biggest thing that I still to this day, like, man, I could have gone Weave.
You know what I'm curious about? I know that the hitters have meetings, the pitchers have meetings. They do this before the game. You have meetings, and you go through, hey, if this presents itself, I would imagine, and tell me if I'm wrong, 7th inning, this guy's up, this guy can pitch, this guy's not available, 2 on, no out, different scenarios so that you're not caught off guard in the moment. And then, of course, you've got to evaluate things in real time. Right before you went to Nestor in that spot, or any other big spot, how early in a high-leverage game are you starting to plot out the 2 or 3 different options you have, like 2 innings? How does that work?
We meet probably an hour before every game, regular season and the postseason. Now, the postseason, obviously, you have days leading up to it and more advanced scouting reports that you really dive into that are even more detailed, like maybe a specific matchup that you feel like lines up a little better, or one that on paper you think might be a good matchup, but as you dig a little bit more, maybe isn't. So it's a little more detailed. Yeah, I mean, I think you get to certain points of the game and you get through certain innings, you can see how it's unfolding. But an hour before each game, it'll be myself, Blake, Harkey, was Desi, Osmus, and Louis Rojas are in there.
Cashman's not in there for that stuff?
No.
Okay.
No, and we kind of go through, we have our matchup sheets and everything and what matchups we like, and we just kind of start to talk through scenarios, and I kind of open it up. All right, he's gone 5. He gets 2 outs he gets an out in the 6th at the 3-hole hitter. We know it's now a sketchy matchup, possibly. He's done. That's how I present it. I'm like, all right, he's done. Who we like for the next round. Now, every team's a little bit different. A lot of teams now are very platoon heavy. So, like the Red Sox this year, we're kind of starting to look a lot like the Rays have been the last few years, where, the Rays, when they've been at their best, like have that complementary 12, 13-man position player that kind of like the bulk of it turns into a really good 9. And that, man, I bring in a situational lefty or righty, boom, they're firing this guy that is on this team because he handles one-handed really, really well. And a lot of teams are being built like that. The Red Sox were a little bit like that. The Dodgers, not as much. They're a little more like us and less of that pinch hitting mode. They had a couple of guys, but that's a big one is, okay, if I bring this guy in, are they going to shoot someone? And do we want that even, especially if it's in the middle of the game and you set yourself up moving forward?
Is that what you're talking about, all these lanes? Like, I don't know if you and Cashman are big bowling fans, but it's the lanes and this and that. And, that's what it drives me nuts hearing the lane talk.
Yeah.
But because it feels like, even hearing you explain it, Booney, and I get it, like there's a part of me that says, okay, well, there's logic behind that, but it's also almost predetermined. And if you're predetermined to, we went over this scenario and now, okay, we talked about this pregame, so we're going to go with it here, as opposed to your gut feel. You're a baseball lifer. You said it yourself. And I think you've done a better job of that, of applying both in recent years here.
Yeah, but honestly, it happens every night. Every night. There's the balance, and there's every night where you toe the line, where it's like, no, we got to push a little bit here. Even though that might be the better matchup tonight, we're gonna try and get another here. A lot of the three batter minimum has changed things a little bit too, and it's not so much. I think in some ways it's fine. I don't mind it, and you gotta, it puts some value in guys that get relievers, especially that get both handed out. But sometimes, I'll take a pitcher out, like say a starting pitcher, and it's like, man, I could have got one more. I know you could have, but I hated the third matchup for the next guy I'm bringing in.
Yep.
And I know he's got to face 3 hitters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of times the calculus for even pulling a starter sometimes.
That's interesting. All right, so Aaron Boone is in studio. We're going to knock him around. I mean, play him pretty soon here in the baseball card game.
You both were a little nervous. I'm calm as
I'm not
can be.
nervous.
No, you said before he got here you were nervous about the card
Well,
game.
he's supposed to beat us.
Well,
I mean, he's a
he's
Raider. His
saying
dad played with all
nervous.
these guys. Jeez,
Yeah,
if he doesn't beat us,
I'm
no pressure.
now
If
that
you don't beat us, you're a loser.
Now
You
that
gotta
I'm here,
win,
I'm
man.
nervous.
Yeah, see, at least you admitted it. I respect that. Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. I know we're jumping around a lot here, but to me, outside of Mattingly, there is not another Yankee that is so revered and has that top-level stature, and we know why. The plight, didn't have the teammates, his back, all the... Can Aaron Judge be an all-time Yankee, no asterisk, all-time, without a championship?
Well, hopefully we'll check that second box, too. So that's how I look at it. We're
I
going
hear you,
in
but
with
if
that.
you don't, and trust me, I'm hoping you do as well, but if you don't...
He's as amazing a player in person that I've ever been around. So I would say yes, but I don't even want to think about that. We are, I've said it before, we're hell-bent on getting to the top of that mountain, and that's where I'm not even going to let myself go there right now.
Okay,
Off of
I respect that.
BT and I have had these conversations many times. Did you grow up a Phillies fan too? I know you're an Eagles fan, and the reason I ask is because Go ahead.
So baseball, I was a fan of my dad's team.
Right.
Like baseball's the family business, so it's like I'm not as much a fan of teams.
Okay, but I know you know the history as well as anybody, right?
Sure.
So Mike Schmidt, did you see the documentary that they did?
Oh, yeah.
That was great.
So I learned, I'm a little bit younger than you guys, I didn't know that Schmidt had these postseason struggles and that the Philly fans would get on him, which is not really that different from what Judge has experienced going from the greatest regular seasons of all time to some struggles in the postseason. Anything you could draw from that, Mike Schmidt to Judge?
Yeah, I mean, I lived it. I lived the 70s, but, so they lost in the championship series, heartbreaking. 76, they got swept by the Reds when they were like, that was the year they burst on the scene, became this great team with an unbelievable nucleus. And then they lost in heartbreaking fashion in 77, 78 to the Dodgers. So I'm 3, 4, and 5 years old during that. And I mean, I was into it from the time I could crawl. But that said, I'm 5, 6, and 8. So I was aware of it, and the team was really, really close. We all lived in the area. We spent the winter like families together and stuff. So we were really close. Like Luzinski's are our family's best friends. Really close with Schmidts and Boas and Tug and on and on. Maddox and Carlton all lived in basically the area. So it really was family. So I was aware of it. Not to the degree, and so the documentary was so good, and obviously then he goes on to win the MVP in '80, and it kind of was like this defining moment of cherry on top of probably the greatest third baseman to ever live.
Yeah, he is. That documentary was great. The George Brett one was fantastic.
All of those
those guys.
I eat those up. The Cobra.
I saw that one too.
Maddox, they had one recently.
Maddox was really good.
I saw that. What do you think is the best, from your perspective, from a competitive perspective, just the optics of the game, what do you think is the best decade of baseball?
Well, I think it's the one that when you fell in love with the game, and it always is that. And so for me, that's the 80s, late 70s, 80s. Like that was the height of my fandom, and when you're cemented. And I think it's very true is you always romanticize and go back to that's your default is when you were the biggest fan and, well, why don't we do this now? Or, those kind of things. So I would say, the 80s is my wheelhouse.
What'd you make of the Dodgers talking a lot of smack post-World Series? I know you're a competitive guy. Dodgers had a lot to say about your ball club.
I wouldn't let up. I was kind of hoping you said something, quite frankly.
Good. Didn't like it. They won, so... that they had that right. So, a couple of the people like saying some things. It's like, did you see what you did this year? Like it wasn't the Freddie Freemans and Shohei's and Mookie's popping off. It was some others. So look, they won the World Series. We didn't play our best, and they're flying high right now. So we'll try and get back to that stage and hopefully punch through.
But they were disrespectful, and you're a competitive guy. Like, that bothered me. I'm not even a Yankee fan. I know it had to really
I'll just say, yeah, it did.
I know there's more in there, Booney. Come on.
Honestly, I don't know how you didn't fire back. And I know it's pretty much it's a waste of time. It only presents more problems for you and things you've got to deal with and that are really unimportant to the bottom line here that don't impact your bottom line. But yeah, it's one thing to talk smack. Like, it was deeply personal in the baseball sense, because I don't even have the quotes in front of me, but we all know what they were.
Multiple guys.
Like, basically saying you guys a little sloppy.
Sorry,
Joe Kelly, some of these guys who haven't done a damn thing in years. Like, a little sloppy, whether it's on the base. Like, to me.
Something down your leg.
Yes. Yeah, but that's, to me, if I'm the manager, that's an indictment, even if it's unfair. I'm taking that so personally, and I know it would be counterproductive to fire back, but you had to want to. Did you almost fire back?
I'm almost firing back right now.
Well, don't stop, man. Let's go.
But no,
Screw
I'm not.
them.
I'm not. They won, and hopefully we win and handle ourselves in a better way.
All right, well, let me ask you this then about the Dodgers. What they're doing from a business perspective. Okay, it seems like the Japanese pipeline has kind of shifted from the Yankees. Now it's there. They made a very astute move, getting Betts, very astute move, sign of Freeman. Like, they get guys. Even Freeman maybe was kind of at the tail end, but when they bring guys in, they're all in their absolute prime. And a lot of baseball fans, people that call the station, call me and Sal on social media, basically think the business of baseball is broken. I agree and I don't. What is your perspective on all this business stuff? Yeah,
I think it's probably a little overstated that it's broken, especially when you have like a team like this that we're all going, wow, they signed another. Whoa, they got and they've gone to a place payroll wise that it's like hard to wrap your brain around. And I worry a little bit about that from a collective bargaining agreement the next time, like because it's not. When you're ironing out an agreement, it's not always just Major League Baseball and owners against players, but it's owners against themselves, because you got to get 23. I feel like 23 out of 30 owners have to agree to ratify. So you start ticking up, and there's always people in the middle that they got to pull over at the end. So I get a little worried about that come collective bargaining.
Meaning a work
time.
Stoppage.
Correct.
I'm worried about that, too. I said that to Sal a couple of weeks ago that it came up. I'm very worried about that.
It
stinks.
Need the games here. Come on. I can't deal with a work stoppage.
You finally get Soto and there's a stoppage.
No, I don't want any part of that. You think you guys could beat the Dodgers this year?
I think we can beat anyone. We'll see. We got to get there, and they got to get there, and that's a lot harder than just having a great team in January. So it's a long way away. I don't even, and we talk about this as a team, and I'll tell our guys, like, we ain't winning anything right now. It's about stacking days and trying to get better each and every day, and putting yourself and if we do that, we'll put ourselves in a position to go play in October and try and get back there.
Booney, you can manage another, God willing, 15, 20 years, and
oh God, no,
and never have somebody like Soto, like that unique skill set to pencil in the 2 or the 3 hole the rest of your career. He's that unique. I was a little surprised. I wouldn't say turned off. I was a little surprised that Judge and others, and I get it. It's not like you high school kids, you're grown men with families. I get it. Let them handle business layout. I do understand it. But did you reach out to Soto? Because I know Judge did not. He let him breathe a little bit. When this thing was going forward, how often did you communicate, if at all, with Soto about how much you obviously want him to come
Not
back?
a lot after we met with them.
Okay.
So when we went to California to meet with them, that was my big time to, really make sure he understood how I felt, how we felt, my expectations and vision of him being there moving forward. So, it was, what a process and getting to where it got to.
Take us inside the room. I'd love to hear about it.
It was, honestly, it was great. I thought we put our best foot forward. We went out there with Hal and Randy and Cash and myself and Omar Minaya, and basically just kind of broke bread in a room and kind of tried to lay out our vision and him being there potentially then long term, like what that looks like. what the expectations are around that, about being just more entrenched in the room. So just kind of laying that out. I will say he was awesome. I mean, he really was. He and I had, I think, a great relationship, and the respect I have for him, what he's about, what he brings to the table each and every day. Like, he loves the game, and he's a killer at his craft, obviously. He's very coachable. Like, man, I could get on him about something in the game, and he was not a diva by any means. It was like, he took pride in some of the things that aren't his strength, believe it or not.
Base running, stuff like that.
He cared about that stuff. Those are just more challenging things for him.
You get on guys?
Huh?
You get on guys?
No.
Hey.
So you may not do. I know there's a sleeping giant in there that we don't get to see, and then we sit here and say, "Oh, how could Boone not hold this guy accountable, that guy accountable?" And then we got some insight to your brother, and we pay attention to your personality, the fire personality. There's no way you're not holding these guys accountable, or trying to, at least, behind the scenes. Can you give us a little bit of insight? I don't want to name specific players, but we know what we're talking about here. When guys don't play the game the right way, what's it like with Aaron Boone behind the scenes?
Everyone's different. I say this all the time. I treat all 26 guys differently. Well, actually, it's more than 26, right, when you consider all the people that come through. So I have a different relationship with all of them. I treat them all a little bit differently based on what I think they need, what I expect. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't. Sometimes there's bigger confrontations behind scenes. Sometimes it's, you're building guys up a lot. It's on me and my judgment to decide what I think a guy needs to get the best out of him. Ultimately, that's what we're trying to do, is get the best out of these guys. So that requires a different tone with each of them, I think. And I think authenticity matters, so I think it can look a lot of different ways. I try to establish enough of a relationship with all of them to hopefully they know that I really care about them. And then it allows you to have, whether it's a tough conversation with one or whether it's building somebody up, hopefully they know it's coming, that I care about them and their career.
Yeah, and you said you don't want to mention names, and I respect that, but we've talked so much about Gleyber, and we wish him well. He was a good Yankee, good guy. He seems like the kind of player that you had to build up. Now, that's a long-distance read where I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe a little sensitive, maybe wanted it too much in certain spaces, maybe didn't want it enough in others. Like, he would have really been confounding to me if I'm you, because his talent's undeniable, but the fluctuations in focus would have absolutely driven me nuts.
Yeah. So, first of all, I love the person. He really does. He cares a lot, and really over the last couple of years, too, has taken a lot of pride in going to the post every day. Sometimes, look, unless you have lived it and played in the game and played in the grind and played in the pressure of Major League Baseball, especially playing in New York, like, a lot of guys handle that in a different way to try and, so sometimes, Paul O'Neill's going to look different than, Gleyber may look. Mm-hmm. And it's a little more gray than that. It's how they handle and try. You got to make plays and you got to produce. How do you do that? Do you do it by... Sometimes you do it by slowing things down a little bit, and that's not always the best look to a fan. Gleyber really cared, like you said, was a really good Yankee. What he did at the back end of the season last year and into the playoffs was enormous for us. I've had a lot of talks with Gleyber over the years. Mendy and I have had a lot of talks. I've had a lot of talks with
Gleyber. Your problem now, Sal.
Gleyber over the years. But, I feel like it won't surprise me at all if he goes and has a massive year in Detroit, because he's capable of that. He cares. And, sometimes it just comes out a little bit different.
All right, we got to get game one, round one here. You two are up first because I'm the champ.
So
but before we do that, you're going to go against Booney. I'm going to have Booney pick the year. One more, though, on that, because you mentioned Mendy, made me think of it. I asked him on Saturday if he texted you a little trash talk after they got Soto. He said no. Did Soto text you after he left?
No. So Mendy's been very, very delicate with that. Like, we actually had dinner, him and his wife and my wife in the city this past weekend, and then we sat next to each other on the dais at the writers' dinner, and and the yearbook for the writers' dinner, we're kind of thumbing through it. About halfway through, he turns it over on the back, and it's Soto and all the Mets stuff. And he goes like this. He just kind of slides it over to me like, I'm like, come on, man.
It was great because I was like, come on, you guys are boys. You had to text him. He's like, no, I ain't doing that, man. Because he's saying that it comes back around.
Yeah.
So
Listen, hold on. I got to follow up. I know we're doing the games here, but and you'll move on, and we'll get to the moves that you got. I like what they did. That was a very good pivot. I think you guys will be very good this year. But, man, how are you not heartbroken that this guy's not in the 2-hole anymore? It's Juan Soto. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, the one thing is I'm so proud of how Hal and ownership, where they went to, how they handled it. I don't think it ever would have stopped if we kept going and all the accoutrement things that started to add up. It's like, I feel like we put a great foot forward. I feel like we made a great pivot, but, for a lot of people that are just like, wow, we got Juan and Aaron back to back, was, even though maybe you had some flaws otherwhere on the roster, really, I mean, was the reason for our ultimate strength of getting to a World Series.
Dude, that at bat in Cleveland.
Oh, man. Wow. God almighty.
I mean, that at bat, you've been around the game, obviously. We're just watching as fans. Have you ever seen anything? That at bat was on.
And he had so many of those throughout the course of the year, like first at bat of spring training. I think he went deep his first at bat at spring training. And I was just like, and everyone, like at spring training, I'm like, yeah, but think of that at bat. All the anticipation, eyes on that bat, and to watch it play out. Yeah. And then to watch, we go to Houston to start the year. And then, the amazing thing was I had a lot of people, during the season, middle of the season, later part of the season, when we, be in another city, maybe a front office person from another team come up and just ask me about Soto or whatever. I'm like, or Judge. And I'd be like, the amazing thing is I can't imagine a better offensive season than what Juan's doing right now and the level at he gives you every night. And then I'd say,
look right behind him.
And Judge has 100 points on him in OPS.
That's unbelievable.
That. Oh yeah. That was for me. And I tell Aaron all the time. Sometimes I take him for granted a little bit. Like his greatness on top of the season that Juan was having is. It's hard to fathom.
Yeah, but what you really? What are you doing? You give up your suite or your tickets. Keep the guy here. I mean, come on. We know you got it hooked up.
What you're really saying is you guys have the best right fielder in New York. I hear you, Skip. I got you.
Stop
That's exactly what you're saying.
And by the way, his first at bat at Yankee Stadium as a Met.
Isn't that the game we're going to? We're going with Mitch, right?
We got to figure out a way to get there.
We're going there.
That is going to be some drama.